5 o'clock performance will be a play written by Maxineisaacs. Unwitting is the title, and our director is Adrian Harris. So first I'm going to have our lovely actors introduce themselves and who they will be playing, and then we'll just start right off. So, Andrew,
How you doing, y'all? My name is Andrew. I'm playing Older John.
Hi, Steve O'Brien. I'm playing Scott, outgoing National Student Association president, and a couple other roles as well. We'll see. We're in science.
Good afternoon, everyone. Adarian Williams. I'll be reading for Agent 1, President Lyndon B. Johnson, and Student 3.
Hi there, my name is Clarence DeMezier. I will be reading for Paul, Agent 2, and Agent 2 as CIA Director Richard Helms.
Hey everyone, I'm Jake Anderson. I'll be reading Young John.
Hi all, I'm Tiaran Daniels and I'll be reading for Judith and Sam.
Hello everyone, I am Eddie Neve Keel and I will be reading for Tim, Student 1, and a reporter.
Hey, I'm Cameron, and I'll be Mark and Student 2.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I'll be reading stage directions. Prologue.
Now the trumpet summons us again, not as a call to bear arms, though arms we need, not as a call to battle, though in battle we are, but a call to bear the burden of a long twilight struggle, year in and year out, rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, a struggle against the common enemies of man, tyranny, poverty, disease, and war itself. Can we forge against these enemies a grand and global alliance, north and south, east and west, that can assure a more fruitful life for all mankind? Will you join in that historic effort? In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Lights go briefly down, and we see a blown-up photo of the stage at the University of Wisconsin, where Vice President Hubert Humphrey was addressing the Congress of the National Student Association in August of 1965.
Kennedy's inaugural was then. This is now 4.5 years later. The world is a different place, a place where that young president was assassinated just a few months ago. And his successor has sent the Vice President of the United States to come to a Congress of students at the University of Wisconsin to lecture us about our growing awareness of and opposition to the administration's escalation of the war in Southeast Asia. Here's what Humphrey said to us on that day.
The right to be heard does not automatically include the right to be taken seriously, and there is a basic and obvious difference between the peaceful march of a nonviolent demonstration and open, brutal, cruel, destructive, uncontrolled hoodlumism and riot, hate, pillage, looting, murder, fire.
I was there at the 1965 Congress of the National Student Association on the campus of the University of Wisconsin. If you think Kennedy's America was different from what followed him, you should understand what came before. I was born in 1943, 22 years ago, in Benson, Minnesota, out on the western edge of the state. When you drive into town, the first thing you'll see is a sign that says, "Welcome to Benson, home of 3,500 friendly people." Our favorite joke around town is that makes us the exact same size as New York City. In Benson, we're Norwegians, Lutherans, and Democrats, and we're proud of our distinction from the Swedish Lutheran Republicans on the other side of the state. I'm part of a big family that meets every Saturday night for what we call a family reunion, where we discuss world affairs and American politics. We all watch the network news every night, well, often over dinner. My father, with his 8th grade education, is a regent of the University of Minnesota and an elected official who spends quite a lot of time in the state capitol. My mother teaches German at the local high school. Having been away at college and now, in 1965, living in Washington, D.C., I can see that in Benson we are very big fish in a very, very small pond. I can also see that I was expected from an early age to take a leadership role in anything I did. That's why, shortly after I got to the University of Minnesota in 1960, I ran for the office of student body president, which, as a sophomore, I won. From there, like many other student leaders, I became involved in the National Student Association, or NSA, whose members currently represent over 300 colleges and universities. At the Congress you see here in the photo, I've just been elected vice president of the NSA, responsible for all domestic programs. Some people think I'm on the road to becoming president of the organization. All I know is that I, and I'm sure all of my NSA colleagues, regardless of party affiliation, were inspired by John F. Kennedy's inaugural speech injunction to ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. His tragic assassination less than 2 years ago, instead of crushing our determination to make a difference in this world, actually reinforced it. We are on fire and just getting started. It's an exciting time.
Scott and Paul walked by in a heated conversation.
This is Scott, the outgoing NSA president, who is about to go into the Army, and Paul, his successor. Paul has just been elected, as I was, at the Madison Congress. You need to know them. They are an important part of our story.
Tim stands to one side, observing.
Since freshman year and now in D.C., Tim has been my roommate, trusted mentor, and friend. You'll see him again. And now, for our story.
Scene 2. It is a week later. The NSA Congress is still going on. Tempers are short.
You have no right to push any resolution on this convention, much less one that outright supports the war in Southeast Asia. It's clear to me that, although we haven't debated it fully yet, most of our members strongly oppose what the administration is doing.
I thought you and I had an understanding. What exactly do you mean by no right?
Just what it sounds like. This is an organization by and for students. Look around you. In case you've forgotten, we not only have an incredible network of students in this country, we're also very well connected around the world. We're glad to have your support, but you cannot dictate your policy preferences.
You're completely out of line here. Not only have I not forgotten, the fact is that it is you who needs to remember something. No matter how well connected you think you are, it is unusual, to say the least, for an NSA president to be involved in an act of open defiance against the Johnson or any presidential administration.
Since when?
Since we formed our alliance over 20 years ago. We won't tolerate this. The president wants your support for his important work holding down the line against the commies in Southeast Asia and wherever else they're operating. You simply cannot ignore our suggested wording to that effect.
Paul enters.
Am I interrupting something?
No, yes, actually you are.
What's up?
We're discussing the Vietnam support resolution that the administration wants included in our final document.
Sorry. Too late.
What do you mean, too late?
The agenda has already gone to the printer. I refuse to put that resolution before the delegates. For what it's worth, if I included it, it would blow the roof right off this place. I'm not about to do that, especially in my first act as president.
You have not heard the last.
No, Dad, I don't care. I'm not in charge anymore. But as far as I'm concerned, the NSA will always be independent.
You're delusional. And both of you are way, way out of your depth.
He departs.
What an asshole.
Yes. But watch your back.
Scene 3. Young John and Tim enter. Young John nods briefly at older John. Young John and Tim stop before the door of the Georgetown townhouse.
Okay, if this guy wants to see me, why didn't he come to us, huh?
Have I ever misled you? This is good for you. He's a former NSA guy himself who continues to take an interest in our work, and I think that's a good thing. You're on a fast leadership track at NSA, and he can help.
How?
He'll have some ideas about things that you can get involved in that'll help you eventually win the presidency. I mean, that's what you want, isn't it?
If I may speak for my younger self for a moment. I was very young and naive, but I was also ambitious. And in Benson, ambition is akin to bragging. Both were fearsome sins. So I was conflicted. Tim was right. Of course, I wanted to get ahead in Washington more than anything in the world, but I couldn't admit that to myself, much less to Tim. He took me under his wing when I arrived on campus. When he was president of the student body, we became roommates that year and remained roommates until he graduated 2 years later, at which point I became student body president as he had been. When I got to Washington, after graduation, we roamed together again. I considered us very good friends.
Young John and Tim ring the doorbell.
Hi, Tim. And you must be John. Nice to meet you.
I have to run, but I wanted to introduce you two. I think you'll have a lot to talk about. See you back at the apartment.
John's offered a seat on a fuzzy, chintz-covered love seat and says something we can't hear.
No thank you. I don't drink much.
You know, I appreciate your willingness to come over here. I was hoping we might speak privately. Why don't you let me fix you a drink? They say I make the best martinis in Washington. And as they also say, it must be 5 o'clock somewhere. This may seem a bit unusual to you, but I wanted to tell you that you've been in our sights for some time now. Well, presumably you know that there are a handful of us who were originally involved as students and who now work with your colleagues at FSA. And you must have seen us at the Madison conference this summer. Most impressive, your election to the NSA leadership, and according to Tim, the future president. I mean, a small town public school boy like yourself, and I'm told a scratch golfer as well.
How did you know?
Don't underestimate us. I was eager to meet you, to understand the magic for myself.
No offense, but why did you want to meet me today? I don't get it. As the name implies, the NSA is for students.
I still care deeply about the organization, and I'm more than a little concerned that it appears to be breaking into factions. In fact, we've never had such a fierce political battles. The left is trying to take over the NSA, while the right is trying to destroy it. Even getting some universities to withdraw from NSA entirely. Tim thinks so highly of you, and from what I've observed, I think that with your obvious political skills, you might be able to bring some unity to the organization and allow it to settle its differences and continue to be a beacon to the free world.
Well, that's a pretty tall order.
Is your drink all right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm sorry. May I get you something else?
Do you have ginger ale?
Let me assure you that this is all on the up and up. I've worked with several of your colleagues, especially on the international side of NSA. I'd like to tell you about that and about some travel opportunities that might interest you. How closely do you follow the international news?
I follow the news as much as I can. And I've traveled a little, but never abroad.
Are you
I'm almost entirely focused on the issues here, at home.
At all about international communism? The domino effect? If Indonesia or South Vietnam falls to the communists and the rest of Asia falls as a result, for example?
Concerned? Yes, I suppose so, but I think other people are much better suited to working on an international scale.
I don't agree with you. With your enormous leadership potential, you could help us out a lot. Getting to know student leaders around the world who will one day be leaders of their own countries, just as you may be.
What would you do with them once you knew them?
Help you all work together against communism and for peace and security. Think about what I'm saying. You mustn't let all your potential go to waste, you know. Benefits are great. Travel and the like. We could really use your help.
I better get going. I have another meeting this afternoon, but nice to meet you.
John departs.
Hi. It's me. He just left. Yeah, it's odd. Tim was sure he'd be perfect. Clean cut, smart, anti-communist. But can't risk it. Yes, I'm sure. Bit of a Boy Scout. Kid couldn't even handle one drink. We've got to find someone savvy enough to keep the NSA from either blowing apart or being radicalized. And we've got to be sure that whoever we recruit signs the loyalty oath before we make them witting. Yeah, our work is cut out for us. Let's talk tomorrow.
Scene 4. Several months later, Paul and Scott are on the phone. Scott is now in California in the Army.
Hey! How's Army life? You alright? You, going to Nam?
I'll know in a couple of weeks. Okay so far.
Well, at the rate we're going, them screwing around with our draft deferments, maybe joining you over there.
I hope not, buddy. What's up?
We've got a big problem. I need your advice. You're the only person I could think of to ask.
Go ahead.
Things are getting pretty deadly serious around here. Not just with the draft deferments, but also payments for rent at the F Street offices. Do you remember when we agreed we'd try to see if Mark could help us raise some outside money?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Well, you won't believe what happened. I talked to our quote-unquote friends about reading Mark into the quote-unquote program. They said no.
You're shitting me. Why?
Because he tutored some kids in Watts once, and so they think he's a communist or some kind of radical, so they refused.
This doesn't sound good.
No shit. I'm glad you still support the idea. I may have a workaround. It's not perfect. We shouldn't discuss it on the phone, but I'll let you know.
Don't do anything that puts you in jeopardy.
Maybe there's a way to give him enough information to function, to do his job without bringing him fully into the tent.
Good luck with that. It's very risky, mostly to you. Be careful.
I will.
Scene 5. It's March of 1966. Paul and Mark are walking together around DuPont Circle. They just look like two guys chatting.
Thanks for coming down to see me. I know you're busy with law school and all.
Happy to do it. I know you're having a hard time getting started at the NSA. Someone told me that you haven't even been able to see the budget. Is that true? For a fundraiser? That must be maddening.
No shit. A fundraiser, I wish I were. That's why I joined the NSA. I slave over proposals to raise money from organizations who you think would be eager to support us. And nothing happens. And then the holier-than-thou big shots on the international staff flick a finger, write a one-paragraph proposal, and the money comes down like manna from heaven, like the next day. I wanted to see what I could do for my country, as Kennedy asked, but I didn't sign up for this bullshit.
I appreciate your frankness and your frustration. And I'm glad you called me. I'm not sure how helpful I can be to you from a distance, but I'm trying. NSA is doing such good, I'd even say important work. We need to find a way to keep it going. While I was president, and since I've been gone, I've been working day and night to figure this out.
I know how committed you are. That's why I called you, but what are you saying? Figure out what?
How to save NSA by raising as much outside money as we can, as quickly as we can.
There's nothing I'd rather do more.
I need to tell you something. But first, I have to swear you to complete and total secrecy. Not just now, but for forever. I must be able to trust you.
Come on, you're giving me the creeps. Maybe I don't want to know, whatever it is.
That's up to you.
I was thrilled when I got this job. I saw it as a chance to make a real difference, to work with students all over the country on all the issues I care about.
You can still do that.
Yeah, so what the hell is the problem?
I need to tell you about our current funding. But in telling you, I am risking my own safety and security as well as yours. If this stays between us, we should be okay though. We will be okay. I promise. But you need to agree with me to stick with me on this.
I just don't know.
That's okay, Mark. I understand. Don't worry. We'll figure something out.
As long as you're working to fix whatever it is, I think I'll trust you.
You haven't been able to get any money for our domestic programs because, well, at the moment, our principal funder is devoted entirely to our international programs. That's why we need to work hard to find a funder or funders for our US programs.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I get it. Can I trust you? At the moment, the NSA's international programs are funded entirely by the Central Intelligence Agency.
You have got to be fucking kidding me! I can't do this, we've got to go public with this!
We can't. Those of us who know about this signed an agreement under the Espionage Act to never reveal what I'm telling you. I could go to jail for 20 years just for telling you this.
You're not asking me to sign anything? So you're taking on that risk yourself instead of me? That is fucking heroic.
I'd hardly call myself that. but we really need your help to get out from under. You're actually our best, maybe our only chance. No one knows I'm telling you this, and no one ever will.
So you need me to replace dirty money with clean money. Now, that's a challenge that actually interests me. As long as you're actually doing what you promised, working your ass off to end this as soon as possible, I'd be honored to do my best to help.
Scene 6.
Sorry to bother you so late.
No problem. What's up?
I was over at the S Street offices today to pick up some stuff. You told me that you'd severed connections with the agency. Well, I was going through some papers at my desk, and it appears the agency is still very much involved. Well, I've been slaving my ass off, as I promised you, looking for new grants for our domestic projects. I found a record of a huge grant on the international side, from one of those fake foundations of theirs, and they're still paying the goddamn rent through another one of those fake foundations. For Christ's sake, they're back in, Paul, if they ever left. They're still in fucking charge.
Well, the separation process isn't as clean cut as I hoped, but we're getting there.
You lied to me.
I did not lie to you. Maybe I was over-optimistic about the timetable is all.
I can't be involved in this anymore.
Wait, Mark!
Hear a dial tone as Mark hangs up. Scene 7. It is November 1966. Judith Coburn, investigative reporter, columnist for the Village Voice, and a part-time contributor to Ramparts magazine, is asleep alone when her doorbell rings in the middle of the night. She puts on a bathrobe and opens the door crack.
What do you want?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to frighten you, but the Ramparts magazine people told me to come and see you.
Tell me who you are?
Here's my ID. Please, let me in. I won't hurt you. I swear I have a story for you.
Let's do this tomorrow.
I'm sorry, it can't wait.
She admits it.
Okay, but my boyfriend is sleeping upstairs, just so you know. Sit down right there and don't move. I'll be right back.
She departs, pretends she's talking to someone, and very quickly dresses. Mark doesn't move. She returns.
Thank you for seeing me. My name is Mark. I work for the National Student Association.
This is pretty irregular.
You don't know the half of it.
Okay, tell me.
I think the CIA is running the NSA. In fact, I know it.
You're joking, right? Those right-wing assassins, those Keystone cops. What would they want with a bunch of kiddies?
You have to believe me. This will sound crazy, but my life may be in danger. The people from the magazine said I could trust you, but I'm taking a huge risk just coming here.
Okay, don't be afraid. I'll make you a cup of tea and you can sit and tell me about it. You can take all night if you need to.
She takes out her notebook. Scene 8. The editorial offices of Ramparts magazine. Judith and other reporters and editors are sitting around a very messy table covered with papers. There are boxes overflowing with papers all around the room. Everyone is talking at once.
We even went through NSA's trash in the middle of the night last week. My source's story holds up. I'm telling you, chapter and verse. This is some scary shit. One source says that the CIA has been operating behind a screen of fake foundations, almost all of which are based in the same 1 or 2 law firms. The senior partners in those firms are all former OSS, probably current CIA, and there are plenty of receipts from the fake foundations for the rent on the S Street offices, as well as for the direct grants to the NSA, just as my source told me there would be. For a bunch of sleuths and spooks, they sure do a lousy job covering out their tracks. Honestly, I'm surprised this story didn't come out sooner. My source was clearly terrified though, so we have to be super careful.
Okay, let's divide this stuff up and get started. Who'll take Africa? Who's got Latin America? We need someone to just follow the money, okay? You do that.
Every time you create a new file, make a copy of it and mail it to your mother, or don't tell me, or somebody, don't tell me who, to anyone who will keep it safe. We must protect ourselves.
Meanwhile, on another part of the stage, the three agents are pacing, smoking, and talking nervously.
I'm sure Ramparts must receive some federal funding. They couldn't possibly be doing this rebellion on their own. This is not the first time they've gone completely off the reservation. I'll have to look into that tomorrow. I'll also get the IRS audit on all the returns.
I know some of the folks who are running ramparts, and they are hardly squeaky clean. I'll have someone approach one or two of them with some reasons to kill the story.
I hate to be the skunk at the garden party here, but I ask you guys to be super careful. You know we're prohibited from any involvement in domestic affairs, right?
Right. Isn't it a little too late for that, Mother Teresa?
Scene 9.
God damn it, Dick. I suppose you've heard by now.
I'm afraid I have, sir.
Ramparts magazine has taken out a full-page ad in tomorrow's Times announcing that, wait, I'll read it to you. They will document how the CIA has infiltrated and subverted the world of American student leaders over the past 15 years. They're calling it, this is a quote, Dick, a case study in the corruption of youthful idealism. This is your fucking problem, Dick. So figure out how to pull your scorched chestnuts away from the fire.
Yes, sir. But I should tell you, the lives of hundreds of third world students may be at risk because of this article.
I don't give a shit about the fucking student, and I don't care about the fucking article. I only care that we are being blamed for this, and we don't fucking deserve that. Do something, now!
Well, I guess you could quote me on this. This is one of the saddest times our government's had in terms of public policy. I regret that the CIA was involved in this. I think we should keep our democratic institutions free of government coercion.
Stop talking to reporters, Hubert. Get your ass back to Washington and shut the fuck up.
I think we may be overreacting. We should think about making a bare bones admission without tying it to the president.
Are you out of your fucking mind? Volunteer nothing.
I can assure you that the Russell Committee of the Senate, which has jurisdiction over this matter, has never been briefed about CIA subsidies of the NSA or any other domestic organization.
Of course, you were briefed. Do you think the agency should take the blame for this fucking mess? What good would that do? This is Lyndon's baby. All the way.
Speaking to the White House press corps.
Thank you for coming to the press room on such short notice. I have a very brief announcement, and I'm not taking any questions. I've asked the CIA to cease all student aid to the programs. In addition, I've asked for a full review of other agency-funded anti-communist programs housed in non-governmental organizations. CIA Director Richard Helms, Undersecretary of State Nicholas Katzenbach, and Cabinet Secretary John Gardner will conduct that review.
Scene 10.
Why are we meeting here instead of at the office?
Sam and John enter. Sam is chair of the NSB, John is vice chair.
Sorry we're late. Thanks for meeting us here.
You can imagine it's chaos at the S Street offices. We didn't even stop there, just kept walking. I suppose you've seen this page from today's New York Times. Ramparts magazine placed this ad to get a jump on the story that will come out in the magazine in a few days. Take a look, look it over, then you'll know as much as we do.
They read the ad.
We should just tell the truth. That we didn't know. I don't know anything about this.
What the fuck? Is anyone else coming, or are we just out here swinging in the fucking wind? Where's the so-called NSA leadership?
No one else is coming.
Why not?
They were part of it.
What do you mean part of it, Sam?
Most of the others, at least those on the international side, were working for the CIA. Which means we were too, although we obviously didn't know it. We need to start thinking about what we're gonna say about it though. I'm sure we'll be asked.
Do you think they're watching us right now? Or maybe listening to us?
I heard they put little microphones in the ashtrays.
They go around the room silently, picking up the ashtrays and putting them outside, in the hallway. Meanwhile, they start looking in the lamps, the sofa pillows, the desk phone, etc.
Okay, let's go over where we are. The government is gonna have to put out a statement which may or may not clarify the situation. We have to decide what we're gonna say if we're contacted by the press. Give me a few minutes and I'll draft some talking points that we can use with the press if asked, or maybe a statement we could issue.
I've been saying, we should tell the truth. Don't know anything about this.
Okay. What will you say if they ask you about your student contacts around the world?
Why would they ask us that? This has nothing to do with those people.
It may have more to do with them than it does with us.
But they're over there, we're right here.
How many international student conferences have you been to in the last 2 years?
2?
How about the rest of you? How many of those international students have you spoken to in that time? Be honest now.
50? 75?
And how many of you came back here and reported on those conversations to someone senior to you at the NSA? Well, who the hell do you think you were reporting to?
Actually, I reported to you.
I was probably at that conference with you, but you could have trusted me. Shit. To tell you the truth, I don't think you, or I for that matter, should have trusted the people we told. This is really, really bad. Let's hear your thoughts about what we should say in our press statement, okay?
Let's make a non-denial denial.
What's that?
Sam is writing on the legal pad.
Something like the CIA may have funded some operations in the past, but I know of none since I've been there.
Why would you, a lowly staffer, concede knowledge of any part of this? Unless you actually knew something.
I didn't.
How's this? We'll issue a statement that says something like, "We are shocked at the ethical trap into which young men of great integrity have been placed by the covert actions of the CIA. Students who worked for the NSA were trapped into signing a security oath. We demand that Congress undertake hearings to expose this travesty."
Do you think anybody would believe us that we knew nothing about this?
I don't know, but it's worth a shot. We don't have any other, okay? If you're contacted, stick to the statement.
They hastily gather their things and begin to disperse. John walks out with Sam.
Who else do you think was involved in this?
Mark actually leaked the story. Scott and Paul were definitely what they called witting, although I think they tried to stop it. And Tim, for sure.
Tim. As in my roommate for the last 5 years, Tim, my closest friend. Oh, God. That's why you took me to see the man in the suspenders.
Of all of them, I think Tim's actually been on the CIA payroll, at least for the last couple of years.
He tried to get them to recruit me. How could I have been so trusting, so stupid? My God. I'm afraid I might get shot dead in the street.
Scene 11.
In the end, the CIA was never held accountable for any of this. They convinced gullible and complicit members of Congress and journalists that the revelations about CIA control of domestic student organizations were untrue, and part of a Soviet plot to undermine US democracy. They maintained they were simply funneling a few dollars to students for travel abroad, when actually they were using us to gather valuable intelligence, to help identify agitators, future foreign leaders, who they assumed were often the same people. If you remember the Watergate scandal, burglary attempt, the ensuing scandal a few years later, you'll recall that that was another attempt by the government to try and blame the Soviets for an anti-war movement and disruptions in domestic politics, programs that were strictly homegrown. In the 1960s, most of us, if we'd been asked, would have reflectively responded that we were anti-communist and anti-Soviet Union. But we were not ideologues. We were much more interested and engaged with the anti-war and civil rights movements here at home. For my part, I honestly believed an international union of students and young people was the hope of the future. One good answer to Kennedy's call. Others were more sophisticated, almost entirely, certainly more cynical. But we'd all heard that call.
Spotlight lands on Scott and Paul, sitting amiably on a park bench. They're older now.
The experience affected each of us differently. Scott and Paul remained friends for more than 50 years until Scott died in 2019. Back in the day, Scott tried to act as if the whole thing was an amusing adventure, but in truth, he was shattered by the experience. In later years, he said,
"It was fun, and it was wrong."
He seriously wondered about the extent to which he and others reported on South African student activities, and therefore unknowingly reported on and supported the apartheid regime in South Africa, and later the Shia in Iran, and other tyrants. It took Scott 35 years to even talk to anyone about what had happened. Paul suffered a heart attack in his 30s and spent much of the rest of his life trying, first as a lawyer and later as an environmentally responsible builder, trying to make up for what they did. Now, if there's a hero in this sad story, that was Paul. He was determined from the beginning to free the NSA from CIA funding and influence. When the CIA refused to make Mark Whitting, Paul made the courageous decision to tell Mark what was going on. in hopes that Mark could raise the money and keep the NSA going. Paul honestly believed he could trust Mark, not to tell anyone. But Mark betrayed Paul's trust and not only leaked the story to Ramparts magazine, he told several other people. Because Mark hadn't signed the loyalty oath, he was spared a long jail sentence, or worse. Paul felt deeply betrayed. Mark spent the rest of his life as a serious Buddhist.
Spotlight on Sam.
Sam dedicated his life to fighting for progressive causes, and he's still fighting today.
Spotlight on Tim.
I'm told my former roommate, Tim, remains unrepentant. I never spoke to him again. If it hadn't been for Karen M. Page's courageous book, Patriotic Betrayal, there would soon be no one alive to remember what even happened more than half a century ago. But she documented and preserved our story for future generations. None of us was ever the same. In the end, ultimately ours are all, in one way or another, stories of youthful idealism that was exploited and corrupted, of thwarted ambition, and of generally turning inward in different ways. We were the most promising people of our generation, and that potential went largely unrealized. Most of us would have been too scared to seek therapy. I certainly was. But many of us did seek refuge in drinking, much more than was good for us. I'll never fully understand why it took me so long to catch on. I almost never talked about the NSA betrayal. The right word that Karen used. I never spoke to a soul about my deep anger. Later, I was involved in national politics at a staff level for a time, and eventually I had a good career in business, but I could never find any real happiness or contentment. After I died in 2020, when my son's mother told him the story of what had happened back in 1967, his only reaction was, "No wonder Dad never trusted anyone." He was right. I never did.
The lights still.